and welcome to this Monday night edition of the Moriah Nightly News on the beginning of the week of our 250th birthday here in the United States. From the nation to Moriah, here are tonight's top stories. I noted on Friday briefly that the conflict in Iran had an exchange of fire at the end of the week, and that was the case. And it was, for the time being, resolved with Iran deciding to come back to the negotiating table. And while I have my doubts on the sincerity of that or how that conflict will turn out, I want to turn my attention tonight to a different conflict brewing. Indeed, on the national scale, as much as I have talked about it here locally. If you recall last week, one of the primary stories I ran was a piece on the New York State energy crisis, and I noted briefly in that the influence of AI data centers being a concern for energy prices. Well, it appears on the national level that is also a major concern for driving inflation, that as the war in Iran, at least for now, is at a low point, the Wall Street Journal notes that experts are worried about AI's influence on inflation. At Apple, for example, Tim Cook sounded the alarm. That's the current Apple CEO, although last I knew he was on his way out. But they had announced at Apple a couple of weeks ago that with the new iPhone coming out in the fall, that it would cost around $200 to $300 in that range more than the last model that was released. That is to offset the cost of the computer chips that they have to obtain to put into your iPhone, because the rise in AI, it takes up the market, takes up the supply that is available for those computer chips. And that cost is being, according to the Wall Street Journal, transferred onto other computer products as well. So it very well will likely influence all kinds of products on the market for electronics and tech gadgets and things like that going forward. Certainly not good for us here at Eucalyptus Media either. So definitely something we will watch as well in for that front. Also, in that same vein, I had noted earlier on in our coverage of the Iran conflict that along with Iran holding the oil market in that chokehold, as the writer at the Wall Street Journal had wrote that piece on economic chokeholds, it was China that held the semiconductors used in computer chips. That also appears to play some role in the computer chip problem, though it is minor at this point. The major concern is that the AI companies are hogging up the market to use that computing power, let alone the electrical needs of these AI data centers. Recall last week I had noted that from that Time magazine article that they had featured in a recent edition a couple of weeks ago, that it takes in one AI data center as much energy or power, electricity, as the entire nation of France. That is no joke. That was written in the report on AI data centers. So, for all of the concern here locally and at home on the state level, for the energy crisis here in New York, those national pressures and global pressures, I suppose, uh, along with national, are playing a role in the squeeze for energy here at home. Even in Albany, Her Majesty Queen Hochul did try and push back against AI. The leadership in Albany attempted to halt any further AI development. More on that will follow. I did not see if they actually have, for certain, passed a moratorium on banning AI development. Last I checked, it was still in the state legislature. So we will be following that on the state level. Unfortunately, time is not on my side in dual employment. Here locally, however, it is noteworthy the very much practical tie-in, of course, that but here locally there has been new developments on just how much the energy has, or this push has affected our area here in Ticonderoga. New documents released, again, under that same oil request that has been, they are circulating, has found that the exact breakdown of the financial side of the picture for what these projects will cost the local taxpayer over the next, really the next generation, as these are 30-year pilot agreements. To put it into a perspective for you, the one document highlighted as much as a 93% tax discount under the pilot agreement from the local, that's compared to the assessment value, that compared to if it were taxed at the full assessment value with what the project is worth. For example, the project under Pivot Solar, and this is Pivot Solar NY9 LLC, that they have in Ticonderoga, and this would appear from what an internet search revealed, it is in the area of 9N22 geographically. You're looking at a full market value of $21 million. And with all of the workings of the pilot agreement, it appears that the Ticonderoga School District only gets a mere 11 grand out of that arrangement. It did not look explicitly clear whether that was annually or not, but I'm willing to bet that given that it is a 30-year agreement, that would be an annual amount. But that is a drop in the bucket compared to what it should have been. It should have been an estimated around, I believe it was around 100 and, where's my note? Where's the right note here? 165,000 at least with per year with the assessment value. Now, a pilot agreement, yes, that was correct. A pilot agreement is typically designed for cases where you have a nonprofit, such as a university, coming into a town, local municipality, that has land that goes off the full tax assessment value. Usually something like a project like that that's for the public good, like education, it doesn't pay the full tax amount, so they will, college or something like that works out an agreement with the local government to pilot agreement to pay instead to offset the burden, the local tax burden. It is not, in my opinion, and this is my conclusion on the matter, I suppose, or from the data, from the evidence, for wealthy corporations to exploit for their own purposes. Chinese affiliated, that so it appears from these Chinese solar panels and things like that. Also reports that the Essex County IDA has loaned out money for the project and similar ventures for giving out, as it were, for the Champlain Hudson Power Express project, a sales tax exemption incentive totaling around $22 million, or valued at a price tag. And that would be again over a 30-year pilot agreement. And that is noteworthy when we're giving out all of this money to people that don't need it, and money that would very much be useful for small businesses. Small businesses that would be more homegrown and grassroots here in our communities. That's what I would think that money would be for. Don't bother asking them for comment because they've all signed NDAs. And all of this, looking at the evidence from the school district and the numbers, it was interesting to note as well that Hague, the town of Hague, has been concerned over the last year with the amount of money that they are paying in school taxes and not getting enough out of it. And this article came from the Times of Tai back in March of last year, 2025, when Hague School Advisory Committee questioned the Ticonderoga School District about both the amount of taxes they're paying for the quality of education their students were receiving. Hague has only 35 students in the Tai School District compared to 167 in 1979, just to note on the population difference there. But the thing about this is that 56% of the tax levy, the school tax levy, is being shouldered by Hague residents, or those in Hague, and when they're only sending 35 students. And Peter Carney, a Hague native and Ticonderoga graduate, found this, who holds an MBA in finance, so no slouch by any means, noted these figures, that when the district is over 30 years having to increase taxes by up to $1 million to offset the cost of these pilot agreements that they've entered into with these companies. So all of that which would also explain the notable tax increase that we reported on here when in our report on the Ticonderoga school budget vote. That, of course, is all very much new information to myself, as well as I very much am following this with you, the viewers, and honestly, as outraged as most of you are. That is a development that we will follow this week, with all of that coming out with Hague in the picture, which was news to me. And so we will follow up on that. I do want to note, however, that there is good news in Ticonderoga, or was good news this weekend, as William Shatner returned to Ticonderoga once again and I'm not sure how many visits he's up to now, in his early 90s, still going strong. A 4-day celebration for the 60th anniversary of Star Trek. There was a Q&A session there for fans, which I believe from their tell if it was actually at the event or or down at the school, at the high school. from some of the reports that came in there. And this event was so large and well tended that it attracted names to the area like the famed, or to, well, I recognize the name anyways, Clint Howard, the brother of the famed director and actor Ron Howard, who of course was on Happy Days and the Andy Griffith Show way back when. But Clint Howard was as well, actually, on the Andy Griffith Show in the 1960s as a young child. But in any ways, he was in Ticonderoga this weekend. Huge crowds were attracted over the event from pictures on Facebook. And this is a great attraction in Ticonderoga that is a recreation and fully licensed replica of the original USS Enterprise from Star Trek that would not be possible without the tireless hard work and dedication of local resident James Cowley. And just a great indicator of passion and creativity turned into business, and a great thing, not only business, but a great thing for the community as well. And so we hope to follow up on that over the summer months as well. And really, I highlight that story because for all of the political fighting and news, and just in many ways, as many in Ticonderoga are heartbroken, as I myself am, even though I am a Moriah resident, that it's just encouraging to see more community focused events and bringing people back together in a post COVID world. And on that note of bringing people together, our ending story tonight goes up to the north, up in Westport, as we received a press release at the end of last week that I unfortunately was not able to get to in time for Friday's broadcast. However, it is noteworthy for our Essex County region because the 177th Essex County Fair is ready to have another week of fun this summer, July 29th through August 2nd at the Essex County Fairgrounds in Westport, New York. And that was the Essex County Agricultural Society that is the formal business name, and they have a DBA for the Essex County Fair. That was in the release that my information was correct when I ran that original story back a year or so ago. In any case, October Rose and the returning Jamie Lee Thurston are heading up the music attractions along with local artist Ash White. And I can confirm that Ash White is a very talented local musician, as I heard him play at the Old Miners Tavern a few weeks ago. Also significant for this year's fair is the amusement company Amusements of America joining the fair as a partner. They are one of the nation's leading amusement or carnival companies, and they, in the release, described it as bringing an expanded Midway experience. And my sense of that would be that that is entirely an accurate statement because of the fact that they, to my knowledge, were at Addison County for many years over there in Vermont, across the bridge, and likely still are, as far as I can tell. And I do know that from Benny Westover's, that's the Fair Board president's description at the meeting last month, that they are going to, as he put it, take up every inch of the Midway there when they roll into town. On Wednesday, of course, I had announced a week or so ago the ATV drag races on Wednesday night. There's also happening Wednesday the harness racing, which is a great homage to history and tradition at the Essex County Fair, with a blast from the past, if you will, and a remembrance of where the fair has come from in terms of its roots. They really are probably one of the only fairs, at least in our area, with that track fair. And they said many with running that style of racing look for that racetrack there. The On Thursday, they are having the farm tractor pulls. And of course, if you are a motorsports enthusiast like me, you will appreciate that. Friday night will feature Jamie Lee Thurston. That is when he is going on the stage. And also Friday night, for those of us here in Moriah, will want to attend and support the TAC Wrestling for the Gador brothers. And of course, all of their, I guess, entourage or those who wrestle with them. I know that it's more than just the Gador brothers, but they are the ones who run that organization. And they, of course, put all of their money back into charity in the community, and they are going on at the fair on Friday. The garden tractor pulls and truck pulls are happening on Saturday, along with a silent auction, which to me sounds very interesting. And of course, on Sunday is the Demolition Derby, which is the ever popular event, perpetually popular. It's been popular every year. The most popular event at the Essex County Fair is the Demolition Derby. Always interesting to me when over in Vermont, it seems like the truck and tractor pulls win the popularity contest, but here in our area, it's the Demolition Derby. Of course, there are also the staples for the fair. The 4-H will be there throughout the week. And of course, all of the exhibits in Floral Hall, along with the showcasing of local farming and agriculture. Always want to appreciate those types of things, remembering that type of thing here in Essex County, and showcasing and highlighting that in our world. And of course, the diner behind the grandstands, which the Westover family runs, is always my favorite spot. And I did not write the name down, and I hope they will forgive me for that, but I am happy to give them a plug anyway. So that will be the things that we will continue to follow this week, and along with whatever is going on here in Moriah. Of course, the main story along the way is America's 250th birthday coming this Saturday, being the official day, although probably I will plan something for Friday's broadcast, being that is the closest date that we have on the calendar to the actual event and celebrating 250 years of freedom, remembering those who have paid that price to give us that freedom and maintain it for these 250 years, and taking up the battle in our own day to preserve those liberties. The battle begins not on the field, but on our knees with prayer. And really, if we would humble ourselves and turn back to God, we would be much better off as a nation and as a world. So that is the Moriah Nightly News for this evening, and for this Monday night to kick off the, what is it, semi-quincentennial, I guess is the word, but to kick off the 250th birthday bash for the United States. Have a good evening and good night.